Thank you, Annie. Thank you. Thank you. And I also just, before I start, I also just want to express my, deepest sympathies of what happened today in Boston. I think we're all have a heavy heart, and it's just something that you never want to see happen. And, this is why people who are in public safety deserve the highest accolades, because at any moment they're putting themselves in harm's way. So just my thoughts to them as well. So as Annie was saying, my name is State Senator Barry Finegold. I'm running for state treasurer. I know there's a lot of offices this year, so I want to make that clear. Running for state treasurer. In my personal life, I worked for everything that I have. In my public sector career, I fought for middle-class families to make sure they have some more money in their pockets by voting to increase the minimum wage and for fighting for financial literacy. Because in our state, we have way too many families that are losing their houses to foreclosure and to bankruptcy. And as your next state treasurer, I'll do everything I can to protect taxpayer money. As Annie was saying, my family started off in the Georgetown housing projects in Hyde Park. It wasn't until my dad got a job at the Northern Essex Community College in Haverhill that my family moved up to the Merrimack Valley. Then my mom got a job at the Andover Public Schools, and she was a special education teacher. So as I tell people, I didn't grow up a rich kid. I didn't grow up a poor kid. I truly grew up a middle-class kid. And when you grow up a middle-class kid, you learn at a very early age that if you want anything in life, you have to work hard. So I was that typical kid that at 10 years old, I had a paper route for the Boston Globe. When I wanted to go to college, I'd unload trucks at 3 in the morning to help pay for my college education. And when I went to law school, really wasn't any money left over after college, so I went to law school at night. I worked 2 jobs, one which was in banking, paid for my own law school education. And when I got done, with my partner, I started a law firm and title company. And 15 years later, now we have 25 plus people that work with us. And the reason why I mentioned that is that our Republican opponent that we're going to be facing, he's going to be saying to us that he's a business person, that he has private sector experience, but he can't say that about me. I've created jobs. I've paid unemployment insurance. I've had health care insurance for my workers, and I know what it's like to make a payroll. So you're probably asking, so why did you just decide to get involved in public service? Well, back in 1992, when I was still in college, I was at the Democratic National Convention, and I saw this young governor from Arkansas speak, and I was inspired. And I said, you know what, I want to do that too. And I thought I was going to go work in Washington. But one of my mentors said to me, Barry, if you're serious about helping people, you should. Now, what does that mean when you yell? Sorry about that. Was it 30 seconds? So one of my mentors said to me, if you're serious about helping people, you need to go back home. So I went back home, became a selectman, state representative, and now a state senator. I just want to talk real quickly, and I'll be answering a question about 2 things one thing I want to do as your next state treasurer, and one thing I don't want to do as your next state treasurer. First thing is I want to make sure that we have a pension fund that reflects our values. What does that mean? I want a pension fund I want to divest from fossil fuels, and I want to make sure we're investing in clean energy. And you can clap for that. I get the red thing. Can I just say one last thing before I get full? Quickly. What I don't want to do is I'll do everything I can to have the lottery be successful. But what I don't support is to have online gaming, to use credit cards, to buy scratch tickets. I think that's a mistake. I'm very concerned about where we're going as a state for gaming, and I don't want to see that prolificated with credit cards or scratch tickets. Well, I would just say, so when I've been talking to people across the state, a lot of people are saying to me, well, how can you get a good return if you don't have companies like ExxonMobil in your portfolio? And I felt a little deja vu. Because back in 1997, in my first term as a state representative, we made a decision to divest from tobacco. And I heard that question of how can you get a good return if you don't have R.J. Reynolds? Well, we've done that, and we have gotten good returns. So I want stuff that reflects our values. I would like to have companies that reflect our values, and I'd like to have our state become more of a clean energy state. We have 80,000 people that work in what I consider to be green jobs. We can do more with that, and I think our pension funds can do a lot more with that. And if you look at our pension funds compared to California, I think we can make them a lot more green. So in a responsible, gradual way, I do want to divest and make sure that our funds reflect our values. Yeah, I mean, I would try to prod them to do that. I would hope that they were doing that because to me, it makes the most sense to have women on boards, and why they don't, I don't understand that. But I would do anything I could to try to promote that. And if there are companies that continue to have discriminatory policies, I would really look hard at whether we as a state should be investing with them. Happy to, yeah, I'd be happy to have that discussion. I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that. To whether, because if we do it for Boston, right? I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't disagree with you about that. But I guess if you allow that for Boston, then you have to allow that for the rest of the states. And the question is, what will that mean? How do other communities feel about that? Do they have the enforcement powers? So I would be open to having that discussion. I'm just not at the point right now that I'm willing to commit to saying that I support that. Yeah, I mean, I would want to expand on what the current treasurer has done. I want to expand to try to create as much job opportunities out there. I think one of the things that I've had the pleasure of representing the city of Lawrence, and one of the things that we've done in the city of Lawrence is trying to have more people become entrepreneurs, people, minorities, women, and having people have the opportunities to be job creators and creating their own destiny and being entrepreneurs. That's something I'd like to try to scale across the state. We have what's called the Sandbox in Lawrence, Mass, and that's something I think we want to do more. So I want to do more of that. I want to build on what the treasurer has done. I want more diversity. I want more people inclusive, and I would continue a lot of the practices that he's already started. First of all, I think the governor should get a lot of credit, and a lot of people aren't giving him credit these days, but he passed a tax package in all my years of being a legislator. There's never been a governor that's been able to pass a tax package when revenues are actually increasing. So I think he does deserve credit for that. I think with the transportation package, I think we should have looked at it in two separate things. I don't think we should have included education and transportation. I think education on its own might have had a chance to pass, but I think when we tried to combine them, I think that's where it was difficult. And I just think, like with anything else, I believe, the Senate's version was a little bit higher than the House version. And so sometimes, just to get a vote passed, we have to be willing to compromise. I would be open to doing something with education. I still think that, I know we'll talk about it later, that there's so many areas of education that's not getting properly funded, whether it's, special education, whether it's early education, whether it's higher ed. So, I would be open to that. I voted for the compromise. I wanted to get something done. I felt it was important that we do have a transportation plan. I live up in Andover, and it is brutal to commute in. And all the development that's going on in the seaport, which is great, but it's going to be harder and harder to get around Boston. I'm sure a lot of you experienced that, and we have to get our transportation system to another level. So I think we did a decent job on transportation. Could we have done better? Probably, but between the House and Senate, I'm just not sure the votes were there, and I think we took what we could. And once again, I give the governor a lot of credit for being able to get something like this passed in a time that I've never seen a governor be able to get a tax increase during when revenues are increasing.
I asked you three questions together, so let me just follow up with the one. You did a very good job with one of them.
Yeah.
Did you support the governor's plan when it first came out, the larger plan?
No, I mean, I didn't come out publicly for it, no. What I'd want to do, is something I can publicly advocate for, but I think what I'd want to do as treasurer is, can I have the best fiscally sound state? What does that mean? Well, we have to make prudent decisions, and what that means is we have to put money to fund our pension funds. So we have to put, we're talking about putting $120 to $130 million a year into our pension system so we can get fully funded by 2036. Now, why does this matter? Because we're AA plus as a state. I love to get to AAA, but until we fully fund our pension, or at least get on a better schedule, we can, have a better, chance of getting a better rating, which in turn will mean, cheaper rates to borrow for roads and bridges. And I think this is just something that's, very important. So in the end, I think indirectly as a treasurer, if I can do that, we'll be spending less on borrowing costs, and there'll be more money for other programs as well. Yeah, I mean, I think so, but I actually think there is money out there. I mean, as a state, though, and as a country, we have to be better. We're 5% of the world's population. We use 20% of the world's energy, and we have to be better. And you look what happens in Russia, and all of a sudden our oil prices spike. I mean, we have to become independent of what's going on overseas. And that's why I've been a huge proponent of wind, solar. I filed a bill that will allow some hydro to come down. At the same time, we want to build up our wind here as well. And we also have to build up energy efficiency. So we have to totally change how we look at energy in the next 20 years. And the thing is, we have to look long term, because what we're doing today isn't going to work 20 years from now. We have coal power plants that are going offline, which is great. And we're going to probably have, up in Vermont, the nuclear power plant's going to go offline. But we have to replace that. And we want to replace it with clean fuel and clean energy. And we have to look in far in advance to do that. And I think that, we're in a great position as a state. So the people I talk to, there is money out there. As a treasurer, that's why I want to divest from fossil fuels. I want more investment in clean energy. And I think if we put money there, I think we could see a lot more growth in clean energy. And I think as a state, it's going to create jobs, it's going to be good for the environment, and it's going to get rid of our dependency on others for our energy. I mean, I'm open to it. I haven't really spent a lot of time on it, but I'm definitely open to the idea. I think we have to find ways of rewarding those who are good, and those who are not good at polluting our environment. So I think it's not a bad idea. I'm open to it. And just something that I think we've had a lot of success with green communities, where we're making companies that are doing the right thing. We're making utilities buy renewable energy. So I think this is probably the next generation, and something that I'd definitely be open to. I think that's a foregone conclusion. What I've always tried to do as a state senator, as a state rep, is promote clean energy. So I've been a big proponent of solar, big proponent of wind. I don't apologize and tell people I've supported, Cape Wind. I think that's going to be a great long-term project for our state. And I also have been supporting energy efficiency. So we have to create our own long-term, generation of power. So I think that's a foregone conclusion, but that's not my top priority. I'd rather us focus on solar, wind, energy efficiency, and have hydro, as well. So. Yeah, I just say that's not.
Do you support this new natural gas plant in Salem that's proposed?
Yeah, I would rather us focus on, so I think it's going forward. I think it's inevitable. So I'm not going to do anything in my power to stop it. I don't think I have the ability to do that. But what I've done as a state senator and as a state rep is focus on alternatives like solar, wind, clean energy as well. And that's why I was, named the Clean Energy Champion. Well, I think what would be different and what would be measurable. I think one of the things that I would say that might be a little bit different is it just my position on gaming. I don't think it's the end all be all. I have concern when there's talk of we're gonna have a $30 scratch ticket. Who knows? They might talk of a $50 scratch ticket. I have concern, so I'm not going to judge my success by how well the lottery does. I'm going to judge my success by can we help people that have gaming addictions? Can we help people if they're having problems, get them the help they need? And I also would say that one thing I would like to do that's a little different than what Steve Grossman has done is we have a school building authority. I like to have what's called the Massachusetts Building Authority. For cities like Boston, major cities, it's not that hard to build a police station, fire station, or a DPW center. But if you're a smaller community and you have to build these buildings, it can be pretty daunting. And there's really nowhere in the state to go to get the resources to say, what's the best way to build a police station or a fire station or a DPW? So that's one thing I like to do, and I would gauge.
Well, you can measure how regressive the lottery system is, and then figure out how regressive it's going to be in 4 years. You could have targets. Right?
Sure. The question is what can you do about student debt? When I got done college, I might have had $25,000 in debt. I was able to buy my first condo for $82,000, and gasoline was probably maybe $1.99 a gallon. And someone graduating from college could get a decent wage and a decent job. You fast forward 20 plus years now, it's been a while for me. It's like you're coming out of school with $80,000 to $100,000 in debt. You are you're lucky if you can find a job. Gasoline is what, $3.50 a gallon. It's more, it's more expensive also to ride the T. So it's so much harder for people graduating college now. We have a college, Commonwealth College Fund through the Treasurer's Office. Can we try to expand that? I'd like to try to look at doing that. But I think the biggest thing that we can do is if I can help make the state to be fiscally sound, I would try to not have UMass raise their fees. And we've done this last year in the state Senate and also in the House. So if we can hold the line on public education, I think that's the best way to do it, because at the end of the day, if people are still taking out loans, it is very expensive. So I think we need to make public education, higher education, more affordable. And if I can get our state's finances in a better position so there can be more money for higher education, that's what I'd hope we'd be able to do. But I would also, like I said, try to do everything I can with the Commonwealth Covenant Fund to help with student loans. Well, it might be helpful to kind of talk about, what I've done as a state senator in Lawrence. As I mentioned, I've had the pleasure of representing the city of Lawrence, one of the poorest cities in Massachusetts. And what we've been trying to do is, I think one of the first things you got to do is you got to have early education. That's critical. Give people the opportunity to get a head start. Having decent schools and to cut down on the dropout rate. Giving people the skills they need to be successful. By 2018, in our state, to get a good paying job, 68% of all jobs, you'll either need a college education or a technical degree. So I think it's critical to give people a good education and then have them a chance to learn good skills. So what we did in the city of Lawrence, we expanded the Northern Essex Community College in the area of healthcare, and we're training people to get very good jobs in those areas. At the same time, I think we need to expand the earned income tax credit. I think it's very important to bring the bottom up. If recent immigrants, I think it's a disgrace that there's a waiting list to learn adult basic education, that people want to learn tools to help them get good jobs. So I think those are the basic things. So as a treasurer, once again, if I can use the banking program that Steve Grossman has started to try to lend into areas that are challenged, I think that would be a big help to try to improve economic development. I'd want to model the sandbox program that we're doing in Lawrence to give more opportunity throughout the Commonwealth, because I still believe if you give people opportunity, I think you have a good chance for people to be able to create jobs and be able to improve their economic situation. We need to absolutely need to raise net metering, no question. So I'm pushing for it. I'm hopeful we'll get something done. Absolutely, we need to do that. So are we on the cusp of an economic correction? No, I don't think so. I think that our state is doing well. I'm just very concerned about what's happening in our gateway cities. I think we have a lot of ways. We have two Massachusetts. There are people that are doing really well and people that are just getting by. And that's why I think we need to give people the tools to be successful. I think we need to give people the best education possible. I think we got to give people the skills to get job retraining. And I think we need to have early education as well, and decent housing. So these are all things that I fought for as a state senator. So I think our state is doing well. However, there's two Massachusetts right now, and the bottom half we need to bring up. I think what some of the things that we've done in Lawrence is with historic tax credits, we are creating housing, and we need to do more of that. So what I'd like to do as treasurer is work with the governor and create more housing tax credits for people to build affordable housing. And I prefer home ownership. I can tell you, when you go down a street, it's, an urban area, you can tell the difference between a rental property and a homeowner type property. So I love to do more in home ownership, and I love to create more opportunities for things. I'd also work with the local banks, try to expand the FHA 203K program, which would basically give people money to fix up older houses to get them to be in a better condition. So I think there's a lot of things you can do as treasurer. Just because you work with banks, they have your deposits. They have Community Reinvestment Act. They have to invest in local communities. So I think there's a lot you can do, and I'd love to try to prop that up to create more affordable housing in our state. I think if you ask me, one of our biggest challenges is absolutely housing prices and what people have to pay for their monthly expense. And I think it's a really daunting challenge. Young people getting out of school, besides energy prices, besides education, loans, I think housing is just a killer for people.
All right, great. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for coming.
Sure. Can I just say one last thing? Tip O'Neill lost his first election. And he went to his neighbor and he said to her, "Why didn't you vote for me?" And she said, "Well, you didn't ask me." So I never want to leave a group of people without asking them. So I just want to respectfully ask for your vote. I really appreciate you all giving me the chance to say a couple words. And if you like what you heard, if you're a delegate, hope to have your support at the convention. But if not, on September 9th. Thank you all very much.